Listen closely. This is how understanding begins.
From the moment we wake up until the moment we drift off to sleep, we are never truly alone. There is a constant companion with us, a tireless narrator commenting on every aspect of our lives. It critiques our appearance in the mirror, analyzes our interactions with colleagues, replays our past mistakes, and speculates about our future. This is the inner voice. For some, this voice is a trusted friend, a source of encouragement and wisdom. But for many of us, this voice is a harsh, relentless critic, a bully that lives inside our own heads. It isn't true what they say in the self-help books and on the inspirational Instagram posts, that you can't love anyone until you love yourself. It's a nice sentiment, it sounds profound, but it's not true. Think about it. Many of us have loved parents, children, friends, and partners deeply and fiercely, long before we learned to extend that same grace to ourselves. Love doesn't care which way you come or what state you're in when you get here. Love welcomes everyone unconditionally. The real challenge, the one that defines the quality of our mental and emotional lives, is whether we can learn to offer that same unconditional welcome to the strange, difficult, and oftentimes contradictory parts of our own minds. Have you ever found yourself in a heated argument with yourself? Perhaps the alarm goes off at 6 a.m. One part of you says, "Get up." You promised yourself you'd go to the gym. Another part immediately fires back, "No, it's cold, I'm tired, just hit snooze for 10 more minutes." If you have ever had that debate, a fascinating philosophical and psychological question arises. If you didn't agree with yourself, then who is I and who is me in that scenario? Who is doing the talking and who is doing the listening? The truth is, the human mind is not a single, unified entity. It is not a dictatorship run by one coherent self. It is more like a bustling boardroom, a round table of wildly mixed characters, each with their own agenda, their own fears, their own style of communication, and their own desires. There is a sentimental, emotional you. There's an intellectual, analytical you. There's a you who loves being the center of attention at a party. And another you who would rather curl up with a book and never speak to anyone. There's a grumpy, rebellious you that doesn't want to do any of the work. And a hyper-motivated, perfectionist you with a color-coded planner who wants to get an A+ in life. For many of us, this mental boardroom is a noisy, chaotic, and hostile place. Arguments break out, factions form, and nothing gets done. And we are the moderator, tasked with the seemingly impossible job of keeping some kind of order among these unruly committee members. This continuous stream of inner narration is what psychologists call self-talk or inner speech. It is one of the most fundamental and defining aspects of human consciousness. Being caught talking to yourself out loud can feel embarrassing, and some people even stigmatize it as a sign of mental instability. But decades of psychology research show that talking to yourself is completely normal. In fact, it is a sign of a healthy, functioning mind. Research indicates that most, if not all, of us engage in some form of self-talk every single day. The Russian psychologist Lev Vygotsky, a pioneer in developmental psychology, hypothesized in the 1930s that this kind of speech is actually key to our development. He observed that children often speak to themselves out loud as they play. They are not hallucinating, they are practicing. By repeating conversations they've had with adults and narrating their actions, children learn to manage their behaviors and regulate their emotions on their own. As we grow older, this outward, vocal self-talk tends to become internalized. It morphs into the private, rapid-fire inner dialogue that constitutes much of our thinking. We know this internal self-talk is crucial. It helps us plan for the future, work through difficult logical problems, rehearse for social situations, and even motivate ourselves throughout the day. But while the mechanism is natural, the content of this self-talk has a profound impact on our lives. Science has shown a direct link between the quality of our inner dialogue and our performance, mental health, and overall well-being. Engaging in instructional or motivational self-talk like telling yourself, "Keep your eye on the ball," or "You can do this," has been shown to increase focus, boost self-esteem, and help us tackle everyday tasks more effectively. A study of collegiate tennis players, for example, found that incorporating specific instructional self-talk into their practice significantly increased their concentration and accuracy. However, the opposite is also true. Where positive self-talk can be a superpower, negative self-talk can be a debilitating poison. Most people are critical of themselves occasionally. It's a natural part of self-reflection. But when this behavior becomes frequent, automatic, and excessively negative, it becomes toxic. High levels of negative self-talk are a strong predictor of anxiety in both children and adults. Those who constantly blame themselves for every problem, who ruminate on past mistakes, and who speak to themselves with harshness and contempt, typically experience more intense feelings of depression and lower self-worth. To master our minds, we cannot simply wish this voice away. We must understand the specific characters that inhabit our mental boardroom. While these subpersonalities are unique to each of us, based on our own history and experiences, they often fall into several classic, recognizable archetypes. Let's introduce the key players. First, and most notorious, is the inner critic. This is the voice you likely know all too well. It is the harshest judge, jury, and executioner in your mind. It's the voice that tells you you're worthless, that you're an imposter, that you don't belong in the room. It keeps a detailed, indexed file of every mistake you've ever made and loves to replay your most embarrassing moments on a loop at 3 a.m. What makes the inner critic so difficult to deal with is that it often masquerades as a voice of reason. It disguises itself as realism or high standards. You might think, "I need to be hard on myself, or I'll never achieve anything." But the critic's true goal isn't self-improvement. It is safety. It operates on a primitive, misguided logic. If it can criticize you enough, if it can make you feel small and incapable, you will never take a risk. And if you never take a risk, you will never experience the pain of failure or rejection. It is trying to protect you, but its method is to build a prison around your potential. Sitting next to the critic is the warrior, the undisputed master of what if. This is your brain's threat detection system working on overdrive. What if I lose my job? What if they don't like me? What if this strange pain is a terminal illness? The warrior lives almost exclusively in a future that hasn't happened yet, using its immense creative power to construct elaborate, catastrophic scenarios. Like the critic, its intention is protective, to prepare you for the worst. But practically, it traps you in a state of perpetual, low-grade anxiety, stealing the joy and focus from the present moment. Then there is the procrastinator, the soothing voice of "I'll do it tomorrow." We often mistake this for the voice of laziness, but psychology tells us it is actually the voice of fear and overwhelm. When a task seems too big, too complex, or too emotionally charged, the procrastinator steps in to protect you from the immediate discomfort of starting. It offers a compelling, short-term deal. Trade the stress of the work for the instant, easy dopamine hit of a distraction scrolling through social media, watching TV, or cleaning the kitchen. It prioritizes immediate relief over long-term satisfaction. We also have the perfectionist. This voice tells you that if you can't do something flawlessly, you shouldn't do it at all. It sets impossibly high standards that guarantee failure. The perfectionist believes that your worth as a human being is directly tied to your achievements and the approval of others. It creates a paralyzing fear of making mistakes, leading to a life of missed opportunities and unfulfilled creative potential. But it's not all bad news. We also have powerful allies in the boardroom. There is the inner coach, or the cheerleader. This is the motivational voice that says, "You can do this. You have prepared for this. Just take the first step. It's okay to make a mistake." That's how we learn. It is the voice of encouragement, reason, and self-compassion. For many people, however, this voice is often quiet, drowned out by the louder, more persistent, and more aggressive negative characters. And finally, there is the most important entity of all, the moderator. This is the quiet, observant part of you. The part that is aware that you are thinking. This is your core consciousness, your true self. This is the I that is listening to the me. The ultimate goal of mental mastery is not to silence the other voices, that is impossible, but to empower the moderator to run the meeting effectively, with authority, compassion, and wisdom. For years, my own approach to the negative voices in my head was simple, direct, and completely ineffective. I wanted to silence them. I viewed them as an enemy invading my mind, and I declared war. I tried everything the self-help industry had to offer. I did talk therapy, energy healing, bodywork, hypnotherapy. I tried aggressive positive affirmations, standing in front of a mirror and shouting lies at myself until I hoped I would believe them. I tried to argue with the voices using logic, to ignore them through distraction, to shout them down with sheer willpower. I would be alone in my car, hear a self-critical thought, and literally shout, "Shut up," to my own mind. But it never worked. In fact, the more I fought them, the louder, more insistent, and more creative they seemed to get. It's like the classic psychological experiment. If I tell you not to think of a white bear, the only thing you will be able to think about is a white bear. By fighting the thoughts, by resisting them, I was giving them energy and focus. I was locked in a wrestling match with my own shadow, and I was losing. I was exhausted, frustrated, and felt like a failure for not being able to control my own mind. The breakthrough came not from a new technique, but from a fundamental shift in perspective. I realized I was using the wrong strategy entirely. I was treating my mind like a battlefield to be conquered, when I should have been treating it like a community to be led. Drawing from my experience as a professional focused group moderator, and combining it with principles from cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and mindfulness, I developed a toolkit for managing this internal boardroom. Here are the 3 most powerful tools for transforming your relationship with your inner voice. The first and most counterintuitive tool is radical, unconditional welcome. In a focus group, there is always a difficult character. A grumpy person who doesn't want to participate, or an angry person who wants to derail the conversation. If I try to silence them or argue with them, the whole group falls apart. Instead, I have to practice unconditional welcome. I have to create a space where they feel safe enough to speak their truth, no matter how unpleasant it might be. I began applying this to my own mind. Instead of fighting the inner critic, I started turning towards it with curiosity. When the voice says, "You're going to fail, and everyone will laugh at you," instead of panicking or arguing, the moderator steps in. I take a deep breath, and I say, internally, "Thank you for sharing. I hear you. I know you are afraid of failure, and I know you are trying to protect me from embarrassment. You are welcome here. By treating the voice not as an enemy to be destroyed, but as a scared part of myself that is misguidedly trying to help, I completely change the dynamic. The resistance dissolves. The voice no longer needs to shout to be heard. It feels acknowledged, and often its intensity immediately diminishes. This is the paradox of acceptance. What we resist persists. What we accept can begin to change. The second tool is a scientifically validated technique called distanced self-talk. Research has shown that the language we use to talk to ourselves matters immensely. When we use the first person I, as in, I am so stressed, or I am a failure, we merge our identity with the emotion. We become the stress, we become the failure. Distanced self-talk involves speaking to yourself in the second or third person, using you or your own name. So, instead of thinking, I'm going to mess this up, you would say to yourself, insert your name. You are feeling nervous right now, and that's okay. You have prepared for this, and you are going to do your best. This simple grammatical shift creates a small but crucial psychological distance. It allows you to step out of the immediate emotional storm and adopt the perspective of a wise, compassionate observer. Effectively, it activates the moderator. Studies have shown that this technique significantly reduces anxiety, improves self-control, and helps people perform better under stress. It allows you to coach yourself with the same kindness and objectivity you would offer a good friend. The third tool is to personify and name your voices. This may sound silly, but it is a powerful cognitive technique to externalize intrusive thoughts and recognize that they are not you, but rather mental events passing through your awareness. Give your inner critic a persona. Make it ridiculous. Maybe it's a grumpy old troll named Gremlin Gary. Give your worrier a name, like Anxious Annie. When a torrent of self-critical thoughts arises, instead of spiraling into them, you can simply say, "Ah, there goes Gremlin Gary again. Thanks for the input, Gary. I know you're trying to help, but I'm not going to let you drive the bus today." This introduces a crucial element of humor and playfulness into your internal dialogue. It breaks the spell of seriousness and creates a clear boundary between the moderator you and the thought. It reinforces the idea that you are the CEO of your life, and these voices are simply members of a committee offering their opinions. You are free to consider and then politely decline. As I committed to this practice of internal dialogue and unconditional welcome, something remarkable happened. The voices didn't disappear. I am not cured of having a human mind. But the relationship changed completely. My whiny, shame-filled voice, the one I had hated and fought for so long, revealed itself. When I stopped shouting at it and started listening, when I asked it to be clear and kind, it told me exactly what I needed to know. It told me what it needed to feel safe and what it wanted me to learn. I realized that my fragmented self was less like a broken mirror, sharp and dangerous, and more like a prism. Each part, even the difficult ones, represented a different color of the full spectrum of my humanity. The imagined landscape of my mind transformed from a chaotic battlefield into a wise council of advisors. Even the inner critic had a valuable role once it was moderated. It became a quality control expert, pointing out potential flaws in a plan so I could address them, rather than a judge delivering a final death sentence on my worth. The warrior became a risk manager, helping me to think through contingencies and prepare, instead of just paralyzing me with panic. The goal of mental mastery is not to have a silent mind. That is a fantasy. The goal is to have a well-moderated mind. It's a mind where every part of you feels seen, heard, and respected. A mind where there is internal democracy, not a dictatorship of fear. It is a state where you can thank your fears for trying to protect you, acknowledge their input, and then ultimately make your decisions from a place of courage, values, and wisdom, led by the moderator. This practice is the truest form of self-love. It's not about bubble baths, or treating yourself, or feeling good all the time. It's about the willingness to sit in the room with all the parts of yourself, the beautiful, the strange, the complicated, the scared, and even the parts you find horrible, and say to each and every one of them, "You are welcome here. You belong." Love is a house you can crawl into through a window. If you can't start with yourself, start with the person next to you right now, whether you know them or not. Practice offering them unconditional welcome in your mind. Let them be exactly who they are, and then try to turn that same gaze inward. We are all here, right now, like this. We are all carrying burdens, we have all made mistakes, and we all have a noisy boardroom in our heads, but all of us are worthy of welcome. So, I invite you to hold your own first meeting today. Take a deep breath, step into the role of the moderator, and start with that simple, powerful phrase, spoken internally to all the parts of yourself. Thanks, everyone, for being here. What is one voice in your head that you have been fighting with? Is it a critic, a worrier, a perfectionist? And what might happen if, just for today, you decided to stop fighting it and welcome it instead? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you are on a journey to better understand your own mind and master the art of living, consider subscribing to the Art of Ascent for more in-depth guides and tools. Welcome to the Ascent.